Thank you so much. So perhaps tell us a little bit about the genesis of the project and how, and perhaps also from the production standpoint, because a lot of people in the U.S. don't know that you can actually do, productions in Cuba. And tell us a little bit about how was, making this beautiful beast of a project, with like all of these incredible moments with Omara is so truly like heartfelt, and all her performances are really beautifully portrayed. So yeah, this is great.
Well, the project started with a disaster, as many projects do. So 10 years ago, I was down with a group of producers in Cuba. We were putting together a concert special, like a three tenors type of concert for PBS. We had Ariel and some other, Ariel Portuondo, Omara's son, and some people helping us put together. It was this amazing show. It was going to be in the Cathedral Plaza in Old Havana. We had a lineup of the best Cuban talent. We had all the permissions, which are not easy to get. Everything was all like a turnkey thing. So we get back to the U.S., and PBS says, no, we can't do a concert in Cuba. It's too political because it's Cuba. So the whole thing like imploded after a lot of work had been put into it. But I met Omara and Ariel, and years later, for another project, I was interviewing Omara about her dad, who was one of the great Negro Leagues baseball players here in the U.S. back in the 20s. And she had to get on a plane to go to Poland for a tour. And Ariel and I had an espresso in the kitchen. And just over coffee, as these things happen, Ariel, he said, nobody's made a film about Omara. Do you want to do it? I'll give you the rights. And we didn't know each other that well, but he sort of had some sort of weird trust that I'd be able to do it. I have to confess, I didn't say yes right away. I had to think about it overnight. Because I didn't want to just do like a sequel to the Buena Vista Social Club. And then I thought, it could be an amazing portrait of this artist in the third act of her life. And there's something about Omara now that's very different than when she was younger, but I think so much more powerful. I don't know how you guys felt listening to her sing her songs, but yeah. And I just thought if I could capture just a little bit of that, then we have a movie. And so I had just met a guy named Richard Blackstone, who Dana was working with at a company called Avex. Richard is a Cubophile, and we had talked about doing something in Cuba, and so I got off of the plane from Cuba, and I called him up, and I said, hey, I think maybe we have the project we're going to do in Cuba together. And Dana was running production for him at the time, and I came in, we had a meeting, and 3 months later, I think we started.
3 months, I think 7 weeks later.
Something like
7
that.
weeks later, we were on a plane to Mexico, and we shot that concert with Sigala. So yeah, we didn't miss a minute. We just hit the ground running.
Yeah, and then Danelle joined us, and we did Mexico City, and then our first really big shoot was we did like 10 days in Cuba. We put on the shows in the Copa Room, which was Meyer Lansky's old club in Havana.
Awesome.
So for like a weekend, I got to be Meyer Lansky because like the club was mine.
Oh, and he looked it too. He dressed the part very, very well.
No, it was great, and she was amazing. And then we went to Santiago, and those scenes from Santiago in the film. We went to the El Santuario de la Virgen del Cobre, which is where my grandparents and my parents used to go as well to pay homage to the Virgin Mary. So it was kind of this weird, like revisiting also my family history while we were doing some of this.
Tell him about Uncle Hugo. We went to a park in Holguin, and there is a life-size statue of one of the Perezes. And there's a great shot that I have of Hugo standing in front of the statue, mimicking the same pose
My family has
as
some history
great,
in Cuba.
great uncle.
My great-grandfather, 7 generations ago, is a guy named Julio Grave de Peralta, who was a war hero of Cuba's War of 1868. And there's a statue of him in my family's hometown, so we got to pay a visit, and
So much great history that we discovered in country, and that we tried to just visually bring it out in the film because it's so rich, it's so magical.
One of the things that is very striking is that not only we get to feel her and get a little bit of her cheekiness and her personality, but also we get to see how she relates to other people and her encounters with the other musicians, the younger generations, her audiences, people that loved her all her life. They're very meaningful because they really give us a sense of her that otherwise we don't. And it's really interesting how all of those people are kind of like her support network. And yeah, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about working with all these other musicians.
Roberto Fonseca I had worked with before, and he's an amazing musician, an amazing guy. We had worked together on a PBS show, so we'd spent some time together. Omara only works with young men in her band in their 30s.
Did anyone else notice that?
She's got good taste.
And she wears them out. So I remember I saw a show that's not in the film in Los Angeles. It was a 2-hour show, and by the end of it, Omara was wired, and the guys were like ready to go to bed. No, Omara I think is a complete artist in the sense that I think she's given herself into her art, and it is her life. It is who she is, and I think that you see that in the way that she interacts with people. Because the way that she expresses herself and interacts with people is through music, and it's through working with them. And it's also, you see in the film, it's also by helping them and teaching them. When they say she's a teacher, that scene in the dressing room where she sings with Satomi Venteaños, that's such a beautiful scene because she's, there's this young Japanese woman, and she's kind of like teaching her how to sing the song, and it's amazing.
But she's also like an incredible feminist character, like the way that she like portrays herself and the way she speaks her mind and like the choices that she made, like sacrificing, like marriage for her career and like to take care of her son. And I don't know, it's surprising really, because we don't often think about, like big female characters coming from Cuba being such a strong feminist characters, but they are. And this is such a great testament to that. So it's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. She doesn't take any shit from anyone. She doesn't. That's part of who she is. She's a very powerful, strong female role model in country too. And tell them about the dancer that you met, the young woman who, this young woman who is a dancer literally said, "I can see myself," and it impacted her, it was very profound.
Well, yeah, I think when we were editing the film, there was a receptionist at some post-production house, a young African-American woman from New Orleans, who just came in, to watch some stuff one day with us, and she started to cry. Yeah. And she said, and she's not Cuban, and she said, I understand this woman, and I feel like she, I wish I had known about her before, but it's amazing how universal she is too. I mean, in Tokyo, look at all those Japanese women, they understand her. They're from a totally alien culture, and yet they understand everything that she says.
I have more questions for you, but maybe you guys have questions too. So anybody with a question or a comment, just yes, go ahead, Sarah. You can take your mask off if you want to project better.
Yes. Hugo, having been friends with Ariel personally for over 20 years, I can understand how persuasive he is. So I'm glad he was such an amazing film and a glimpse of this incredible woman. So thank you. Beautifully done.
Oh.
Footage. It was just amazing that you were able to dig a lot of that up. So I was wondering how you went about that. And also, were there any unique challenges that you faced with such a multinational production such as this?
Did he say challenges? Did I hear the word challenge?
We'll get to the challenges in a second. But the archival, a lot of it came from Ariel, from the family scrapbooks, all those old, beautiful black and white photos. They've got albums and albums filled with them. Some of the archival footage, Ariel had these 16-millimeter kinescopes. Kinescopes were the way that TV shows would be preserved back in the 50s and the 60s. And so he had these 16-millimeter reels, including some stuff that had never been seen before since it had aired on Cuban TV. Like that amazing performance of, where she's singing Adios, she's very young and she's singing Adios, and it's kind of to her sister. That was something that aired in 1963 on Cuban TV, and I don't think anybody has seen since. As far as challenges, Cuba is a complicated place to work for a lot of different reasons. Unfortunately, getting more complicated to work in these days. But I've been going back and forth for 25 years. I've developed some great contacts. I've done work down there before, and so we were able to kind of work with some of the people that I knew to kind of. But that being said, there are still challenges, as Dana and Danelle can attest. There are several when we're shooting the Copa room. So the first day everything was fine. The second day, the hotel security didn't want to let our band into the hotel because they were not on a list, or I forget what was going on. But for like 2 hours, they held everybody outside on the sidewalk until there was like this kind of emergency meeting in the manager's office.
And that was political. That was almost cultural. Then they just said no, and there was no. The security team was from the private side of the hotel, and I remember Danelle running around with me like, "What's happening? We're calling our lawyers." Okay, that's going to help. We're going to call the lawyers. But it really became political, and we had to sit down and we had to really say we are not of that. We're just putting on a show, and this is not our politics. You guys have to do what you have to do. And we wound up getting them all in, but it really took about, and we weren't allowed in the meetings. We kept trying to like fight, try to keep me out of a meeting. We were fighting our way into this meeting to just try to have an intelligent conversation, and we were not welcome. We had to walk away.
It's
and
kind of like Politburo meetings,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Tammany Hall, but okay.
Or Tammany Hall.
Yeah. So, and that was fascinating. But I have to say, I think shooting in Japan was more complicated than shooting in Cuba, just because of the nature of, I don't know. I didn't single out Jenny Murphy and Kevin Murphy, who are also here, that were part of the team. But Jenny was part of the team in Tokyo, and it was tough. There's definitely gender issues and there's status issues. That was a really tough place to shoot.
I have to say, though, that the Japanese crew was amazing. They didn't, for the most part, speak a word of English, but they understood everything I wanted. After working with them, I wanted us to all wear the same uniform, and I only wanted to work with them again, because it was great. I didn't even have to. I would say like, oh, we need to do this other setup, and like 2 minutes later, they would have constructed something. Like we were shooting in a theater, and the manager of the theater said, "Hey, would you guys like platforms for your camera? Like it's an empty place, and here in New York, you would ask for something like that. They'd be like, oh, like there's no way." And there I said, oh yeah, like here and there, and then the crew literally ran from the stage. I mean, they literally like ran out, and 10 minutes later, they constructed 2 platforms in the middle of the audience for our camera positions. And so I was like, Tokyo was great.
See, point and counterpoint.
And the food was great too. So.
The food, that goes without saying.
Sorry?
Yeah, they definitely have good whiskey.
great
Thank you,
whiskey.
Gary.
Gary always, has the important things in mind. Hey, I want to note a couple of people in the audience that have been with me my whole life. My brother Rudy is here,
Yay, Rudy.
and one of my oldest friends, Ralph Perez, who's like the 4th Perez brother.
And there is a question over there. Yes, sir? Yeah, you. Two.
Omara and Ariel saw. I mean, Ariel had seen a cut like a year ago. No, maybe like 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. He saw 2 cuts.
He saw a couple of cuts and he liked it. But we sent a cut earlier this week that he watched with his mom and the family, and I guess they're very moved by it.
Yeah.
He left me this voicemail, where he was just really, kind of like emotionally worked up. He just felt it was. So they're very happy with it. And as far as playing it in Cuba, well, hopefully as soon as possible. But I don't know when that's going to be because things are not great down there right now. So hopefully soon.
Any more questions or comments? Yes? Yes, go for it.
Oh. Thank you.
Truly.
So, thank you. I will say
Great to see
that
Wendy.
Wendy Blackstone, everybody, brilliant Academy Award nominated composer in her own right. Omara says it herself, music unites us. You know, music is love and music unites us, and you just said that perfectly. And speaking of Omara,
We
who's
have,
not here, but speaking of Omara,
I think we have a special message
Yes,
from somebody who wants to say a few words to you that is going to come up on the big screen.
Yeah, if we can get our projectionist to, yeah, thank you so much.
Hola, soy Omara Portuondo de La Habana, Cuba. Al fin llegó el momento del estreno de este esperado documental. Siento no poder estar con ustedes hoy, pero confío que pronto regresaré a New York. Un beso a quienes me quieren por allá, por la gran manzana. Mi agradecimiento eterno para el equipo del documental. En primer lugar, para Hugo Pérez y Dana. Rachel, Frida y Daniela. Gracias a este prestigioso festival Doc New York City por acoger el estreno y el teatro IFC Center. ¿Ya vieron mi ropa? Estoy vestida como jugadora de béisbol. Esto es como un homenaje a mi padre Bartolomé, de quien podrán conocer más en este audiovisual. Y así más preámbulo, les dejo conmigo misma, con Omara el documental y que lo disfruten.
yay!
Bravo. Hugo, do you want to tell the good folk a little bit what they said? She said?
In brief, you know, she wants to send her love to the Big Apple, New York City. She thanked all of us. She thanked Doc NYC. I think the most important thing to note is she was wearing a baseball jersey, and that she wanted, I guess in some way, to dedicate the film to her father, Bartolomé, who was one of the great ball players. And so she just thanked everybody for being here and hopes to see you all soon.
And did everybody notice the artfully placed 3 Grammys over her left shoulder? 3, not 1, not 2, but 3.
So I think we're getting the sign. We have to
Yeah,
wrap
we
up.
got the sign that we need to
Okay,
wrap
so
up. So any
two
last
very
words?
important things. One is that we're going to retire to a bar across the street, Volden
West 4th.
146 West 4th. There's actually the bar, and then there's the secret bar, and we're going to be in the secret bar. So
Knock 3 times.
anyway, you'll figure it out. But we have little slips of paper, I guess we're handing out.
Yeah,
with
it's
the-
right. Go down 6th, make a right on West 4th. It's 1.5 blocks away, and you will see us and you will see signs. So please join us.
Thank you so much for sharing your film with us.
Thank you, Ruthie. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank you all
you.
for coming. Yay.
More things?
Thank you.